Hello, everybody, and welcome into the latest podcast. Let me just check and see if everything's going out according to the way it should be. A video and audio check, if you would. Oh, we already have Steve in the chat has confirmed that. Very good. Thank you, Steve. And hello to everybody. Let me make a couple of adjustments here before we get going too far here. Let's see, we'll turn that off. And we'll turn that off. There we go. There. All right. Well, I am back from Michigan. Had a good trip, and I had sunburned my legs. You know, you'd think the Arizona sun was as harsh as it could be, and I had the worst sunburn I've ever had. Well, kayaking in Michigan. Couldn't stand for about 3 days. It was extraordinary pain. But I can't reschedule the trip. So it took a few attempts and I finally get back on my feet and start walking. And after I started walking for a little bit, the pain sort of numbed out. And then it was good until I had to sit again. But, you know, makes for some interesting stories to tell, I guess. But yeah, big, nasty blisters on my leg, this big around, just yellow pus-filled bubbles, just disgusting. I've never been burned that bad in my life. So at least I'm back where the sun is cooler in Arizona. Yeah, it was pretty bad, but totally worth it. The river I kayaked on is just like I remember it as a kid. So it's 120 plus miles of river. And we kayaked about 9 miles of it. And that was about 4 or 5 hours. We'll call it 4.5 hours. Never saw another human being. It was just beautiful. Just had the river all to ourselves. And the place where we stayed had no Wi-Fi, which was fine. My cell phone worked for the first 3 days. And after that, it wouldn't work anymore. The data part of it wouldn't work. It would still send and receive phone calls and text messages, but the data side of it didn't. So I pay $100 a month to Sprint for my phone, which is part of the, I think $30 is the phone lease and the rest is the monthly plan. My wife, I've got her on Boost Mobile, which is also part of Sprint. She had data the whole time. She pays $30 a month to month, no contract. The phone was given to her by my sister, so there was no cost for the phone. And yet her phone is the one that worked consistently. So that's a little disappointing. Let me tell you a mistake I made when I was out there. I've been in the city a long time, and so because I'm familiar with being out in the country, I figure I don't need to know anything. I've already done this as a kid. It's the same thing. Well, made a couple of real stupid mistakes that if you guys are traveling around and, you know, just plant this seed in your mind for how smart people make really dumb mistakes sometimes. And that was that I was afraid when we were going out to kayak on the river that if the kayak were to tip, I don't want to lose my phone. This is the only thing I'm using to take pictures and movies. And if the kayak tips and this thing goes in the water, I'm out of luck. And the people that we rented the cabin from on Airbnb, they had a cell phone waterproof enclosure. You couldn't use the cell phone when it was in it, but it was a little box that the cell phone would fit in, and you'd latch it closed. Well, my phone is just a little too tall to fit in it, but my wife's phone, her phone just fit in there. So we said, okay, we'll take my wife's phone. And the people who own the cabin said, we've got some kayaks, you're welcome to use them. We'll take them out to the river for you because the river is just across the street in about a block down. So we'll load the kayaks in our truck and we'll drop you off and then we'll pick you up in a couple hours at the landing point. I said, great. And he said, your phone may not work, but you know, you can try give us a call when you're at the landing. Otherwise, we'll check back in a few hours. Fine. It's all good. We're ready to go. I've got my sunblock on. I've been looking forward to this for years and years. It's been 40 years since I've done this. So I was this is the pinnacle, the highlight of the trip, and I just couldn't wait to get started. So we go out and we're kayaking, and within less than 2 hours, we hit this landing point. And I'm thinking, this can't be the landing point, because he said it was 2.5 to 3 hours away. And we're just going with the flow of the river, which was very slow. Every once in a while, we, steer, use the paddles to steer and move us around a little bit. But for the most part, nice leisurely pace. And I figured, there's got to be another landing up ahead, so let's just keep going. So we keep going, and I'm taking pictures and videos with my wife's phone. And my wife's got an older phone, and it's got problems. The battery doesn't last very long. From a full charge to an empty charge doesn't take very much time. When you plug it in, she's done something to the port where the cable just falls out. It's hard to keep it plugged in to get it charged up. But it was all charged up, and we did that, and I'm taking video and photo, and everything's great, and weather's perfect. And I see another landing, but this one isn't dirt. It's stairs, cement stairs. And I thought, well, that's going to be tough to bring the kayaks up those stairs. Let's just go to the next one. And I'm having a time of my life. I really don't want it to end, And we're just out there paddling and drifting and paddling and drifting. And it's like, I don't think there's another one. We seem to be getting deeper and deeper into the forest, not the other way around. So I thought, maybe I'll just call the guy and let him know we're okay, because he might be looking for us. He might be worried. I got no cell phone signal, nothing. So I thought, okay, well, I get into an area where I finally get a cell phone signal, briefly, just like one bar, and I realize I don't have his number in my wife's phone, and he doesn't have my wife's phone number. All of our communication's been on my phone, which I left at the cabin. Oops. So I figured that's okay. We'll just go to the next landing, wherever it is. There'll probably be a cell signal there, and I'll just call him. I just feel bad because it was supposed to be about a 3-hour trip, and we're going on 4.5 hours. And I'm sure they're worried sick. Now, this river isn't very deep. Honestly, if I felt at any point we were in trouble, I would just step out of the kayak and walk across the river. It's like 3 feet deep. There are parts where it's 7 feet deep, but most of it's 3 feet or less. So at least in this section of the river that we were on. So we get to the landing finally, and now I'm exhausted, and I had a little anxiety wondering, was there ever going to be another landing? And there's nobody there, and of course, and we just pull the kayaks up, and I walk out to the road trying to get a signal, and I get the signal and I start to call. First of all, I'm thinking if I can get a data signal, I can log into my computer remotely, check my email, or go to Airbnb and get the guy's number. But the battery died as I was trying to call a phone number. It just died on me, and that was it. The phone was done. And I thought, whatever, I can walk down the road. There's businesses and stuff down the road. So I started to walk back to where my wife was waiting and just tell her what's going on. And I saw the guy in his truck. He saw the kayaks from the road. He was looking for us, and he was amazed we went as far as we did. And of course, he was worried that we were okay, and of course we were fine, no problems. It's just that the next day, my legs, and it's weird because no problem with my face or my arms, no soreness from all of the rowing, just from my knee to my ankle was significantly burned. I mean, really bad, and I didn't realize it. So the next day we went to Mackinac Island. We had to walk around all day, and it was a little painful, but I toughed it up. We did that. And the day after that, these big blisters, I woke up, I had these huge blisters, and I haven't been able to put on a pair of socks since then. But yeah, you got to have something like that happen to make it an interesting trip, right? But yeah, it was very, very painful. Like sometimes I would have, I would get up, I would start to straighten my leg, and I just couldn't, and I would have to sit back down again. I guess with a sunburn like this, capillaries burst and the blood flows down into your legs, and it's very painful. But it shouldn't be anything too serious, just a burn. But that was just a really stupid. I know better, I should have made sure he had her number, that she had his number in the phone. And then here I was worried about taking care of my phone when I was the one. I should have been more worried about. So my phone was safe at home. If I had brought my phone with me, I would have gotten better pictures. I wouldn't have had a battery problem. I don't know that the signal issue would have been resolved, but I had his number in here and everything. But it is what it is, and and there was no harm done. And I even told the guy, you know, I said, I was just worried that you were worried. We were fine the whole time, with a little anxiety over how much further before we get to the next landing. But other than that, you know, I told the guy, I said, if it was that bad, I'd have just walked out. just step out of the kayak, walk across the woods to the main road, and go to the nearest business and ask to use a phone or a computer. So there was no danger in that way. And then, of course, being out there in the woods like that, it's these small towns, fascinating to me, where I went to get gas in this gas station. It was an old gas station. They didn't take credit cards at the pump. So I walked into the little store and I said, here's my credit card. I want to fill it up over there on pump 3. And the guy says, okay, here's what you do. You take the nozzle and you stick it in your gas tank, and you select the grade of gas you want, and you fill up as much as you want, and then you come in here and you pay for that. It's like, did I just go back in time? What happened? He goes, we believe that there's still having faith. We still have some faith in humanity. I said, pinch me, am I dreaming? So that was very old school. And we went to this other shop. It was like a nursery with vegetables, and you know, and it was just mountains of vegetables and such. And my wife and I are looking around there, and we said, what time do you close here? She goes, oh, we already closed, but we just let you guys, you know, we saw you were here, we just let you walk around. I go, well, don't you have to put all this away? And she goes, no, we keep it all outside. You keep all this produce and all this stuff outside? Don't people steal it? She goes, yeah, probably, I don't know. I was like, wow, what a different pace of life. And that's exactly what I was looking for. Just small town. And it was interesting. I also noticed, I never noticed before, but in Michigan, the further north you go, and this is just observation. Don't take this for anything other than what it is. The further north you go, the older and whiter people get. It was weird. I've never been self-aware of that until this trip, and I was like, wow, everybody is the same up here. And I can certainly empathize. You know, I have viewers that talk about living in small towns and how they don't make any money and this, that, and the other. And I don't really have a lot of sympathy for them, because it doesn't really matter where you are. You can make money. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there and doing the work, getting the customer and having the drive, the motivation to do it. But that being said, what I found up north is a lot of people, my theory or my hypothesis is people don't really care about having nice things. They want to be with nature. They want to go fishing. They want to go snowmobiling. They want to go tap a maple tree for syrup. They don't care about having a big screen TV or having Wi-Fi. It's not important to that mindset. They don't care about having the stainless steel appliances or LED lighting. It's just it almost feels cheap, like they're just too cheap to spend the money. But yet I saw one cabin that was just completely neglected, and next to it was like a little homemade carport with like a $150,000 boat sitting under it. Just this gorgeous, pristine, beautiful boat, high-end. And I thought, okay, well, you can just see where people's priorities are. And there's a lot of dead raccoons and dead possums by the side of the road. My wife started to count them, and by day 3, lost count. There's that many. And then we had a few deer running in front of across the road in front of us, but nothing close, like it was happening far up. And saw a raccoon, big fat raccoon, kind of waddle across the road and climb up a tree. So all of that was great, because in Arizona, you don't get any of that. And of course, the big leafy trees. In Arizona, the trees, if you find trees, they're generally like pine trees or what are those windbreaker trees called? Cypress trees. They're needle type trees. So to see big leafy trees like maple and oak, it's just what the doctor ordered. So it was a really good time. Moose, I don't know if there are moose in Michigan. I don't think there are. But yeah, it seemed to me that the people up there were mostly older white folks, retired, and I think the attitude is, I never needed no internet growing up, and I don't need it now, kind of thing, you know? I don't miss it, I don't need it, I don't want it. And so there's not a lot of computer repair opportunities out there because you've got these little villages. And of course, some of the businesses do run with a computer, but they only have one. And many of the businesses are just doing what they can to scrape by, and they just have, there was a little ice cream shop and it just seemed to open whenever they felt like opening. It was the weirdest thing. You know, Saturday afternoon on a hot Michigan day, you'd think the ice cream place would be open. Nope, said they were closed. The other thing that was weird to get used to was the sun goes down much later there. So it's 9:30 at night before sunset. And that's wonderful. I love that. You know, to just think it's 10 o'clock at night and the sun just went down. Here in Phoenix, it's about 2 hours earlier than that during the summer months, and it'll be an hour and a half earlier than that during the winter month. The days get much shorter. So it was a really good trip. I think we might be able to share some of the video with you. Let me stop recording that. We just want to keep streaming. Let's see. This was the car they rented me. And this was interesting because this was a brand new Mustang, and it's not what I reserved. I reserved a full-size car, but they didn't have one ready, and she said, "Do you want a Mustang?" I said, "Yeah, why not? I'll take it." And this car had 750 miles on it. It was like brand new. And it confused me because it's much more comfortable. It drives more like a sedan than a sports car, which is wrong in my opinion. A sports car should be firm and slightly uncomfortable, you know, feeling all the bumps in the roads. This was more like it was more like a Hyundai Sonata than it was like a Mustang. And I was trying to figure out what was so different about it. And so I had to pop the hood and look under the hood, and it was a 4-cylinder engine. But why I didn't know it was a 4-cylinder engine is it's low revving. It idles at 800, and at 80 miles an hour, you're at around 2200 RPM, like you would be with a V6. And then I discovered it had a 10-speed automatic transmission. So between the 10-speed transmission and an EcoBoosted 4-cylinder, it scooted pretty good. It was too comfortable. It drove much too, it wasn't very driver involved like a sports car should be. And the engine didn't sound right, and it didn't have enough grunt. You know, when you push your foot down to take off, it had power, but it was significantly less than I was expecting. So you think you'd make it up in the gas mileage, but no, because the car is so heavy, I guess. The mileage on that was 23.9 average. On my V6 Mustang, which is 5 years older than this one that I drove, I get 24.5. So I can't quite figure out what the appeal is there, but that's what it is nonetheless. Saying strange to see a 4-cylinder sports car. Yeah, that's, you know, there are 4-cylinder sports cars. Certainly the Subaru BRZ, Toyota FRS, the Mazda Miata. Although I would argue the Mazda Miata is not a sports car. I mean, it's not turbo, it's nothing. It's just very weak. But 4-cylinders, you know, like in the Mini Cooper and things like that, they're pretty common in sports cars actually. But in a Mustang where you got a big heavy car, it's just lacking. Just to give you an idea of, let's see if I can show you. Let's see. I have to find let's see if I can show you the kayaking. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. All right, let's see if I can find one where I'm in the kayak here. I'll give you some idea of sort of what we were going for, what I was looking forward to. Let's try this one. Let's see what this is. These will have to be edited, but
you see me and everything there?
Yep.
Look how green
Hey guys,
everything
it's
is.
Carey Holzman. I'm here at Cranbrook Gardens in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and this is my latest video. Enjoy.
All right, I gotta find another one. Let's see. I think this is us on the river, just kayaking. You can see there's just not another human being around. That's my happy place right there. This was pretty funny. So I'll just kind of frame it. Stand over here. Just like that.
Good? Hey guys, I'm here at Mackinac Island.
Nice picture.
Hey guys, I'm here at Mackinac Island. Hey guys, I'm here at Mackinac Island State Park here on Mackinac Island, Michigan. And I hope you're ready because here's my latest video.
I don't know if I said it loud enough.
I'm being honest.
And I think there's one other one that was right there. It was pretty close to there. Is it this one? I have to sort of look at these. And then I think there's one other one in here I can show you. You know, one of my favorite things is walking through the woods. I think this one is just walking through the woods. Oh, it's upside down. How do I flip this? Let's see, transform, rotate 180. There we go. And it's just so peaceful and serene to just be walking, you know, through nature. No other people are around. This is at Cranbrook Gardens, which is in near Detroit. Okay, so anyway, so that's a little bit of what I was doing. So I like to get as far away from tech as possible. I eat, breathe, sleep tech 24/7 for the most part. When I'm not doing it, I'm dreaming about doing it or having a nightmare about doing it. So to just get that break is something I need to do more often. So I got some videos to put together as far as little video intros for that. But anyway, I also got to see my buddy Austin, who lives in Michigan, and we got some pictures together, and you guys might remember Austin. He submitted some video, or not some video, but I did an interview with Austin, and we went to a pizza place, met his family, and hung out, and just a bunch of really cool people, and what a great way to start the trip. And just was a lot of fun. All right. Did you cross the Mackinac Bridge? Yeah, it was funny. I wanted to take my wife across that, and the guy says, "Oh, you're brave." It's like he was just trying to scare her, so we were playing along with it. Let's see. Trying to find it. Was this it? I don't even know what some of these are. No, it's upside down. That's definitely not it. Let's try. I feel like it's not showing me all of my source material for some reason. Seems like some of it's missing. Is this it maybe? Let's see. Yeah. All right, so we gotta flip that. Let's transform that, flip it 180 degrees. What happened to it? Where did it go? I have to find it again. Bear with me for a second. Probably this video. So the problem is when my wife is shooting the video, I can't drive the car and have her and tell her how to, you know, hold the camera. I'm assuming she's doing it right. And that's what led to some of these videos being wrong. But it's stuff I can fix. Hold on a second, I'm still trying to fix. There's a little video issue here, a little glitch. Let me try and fix this. I know it was this video shot vertically, but I think she changes it midway through. So this is the Mackinac Bridge here. There she goes. There she straightened it. And now it went blank again for some reason. Very strange. So a lot of this, like I said, I'll have to correct some of this stuff in video editing, and it'll all be corrected at that point for whatever footage is there that can be used anyway. There we go. That's a little better. So that's going over, that's Lake Huron.
Mackinac Bridge.
You think that's an ocean, don't you? Just a big, big lake.
That's a big lake.
Big lake?
Big lake.
Would you say it's a great lake?
It's a great lake.
It's a great big lake.
Yeah, my wife needs some practice on holding the camera steady.
Okay, put that down.
Huh?
Put that down. Pay attention.
Sorry about that. Had a little button pressed by mistake there. Somebody said they drove their bike across the bridge. All right, hopefully I should be back here. Sorry about that interruption. Yeah, and mentioning the music in the back, that's why I didn't play the video all the way through. 'Cause when I edit it, I'll take the audio out of it and I'll replace it with some public domain stuff instead. All right, so did I miss anything while I was away? Anybody have any questions for me? I'm still getting caught up with getting things back to normal. Mark Kennedy says, "Hey Carey, I'm watching you from my much-needed vacation, currently in Cebu, Philippines." Keith W. says he's off on a vacation in 2 weeks. Well, enjoy it. Hope you enjoy yours as much as I enjoyed mine. And usually business picks up quite a bit when I go on vacation. It just tends to be the way of things. But this time around, very quiet. It was a good time to go on vacation. For me to get away somewhere where there just isn't a computer, there just isn't one. For the most part, a lot of these stores are still running on good old-fashioned cash registers. I was at a Meijer store, which is like a Walmart, and of course it's an older person, and they were in the self-checkout line, and they were writing a check. Who writes checks anymore? Why wouldn't you just use the debit card that's attached to the checking account? It just goes to show you, sometimes this happens with age, that people are like, never needed a debit account all my life, never needed to run a debit card. I've been writing checks my whole life and they've always worked, so why should I change? That tends to be the attitude of a lot of people as they get older. And it's not necessarily a good thing and it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just an observation in human behavior. It's been a long time since I've seen somebody write a check, and the amount of effort that it takes to write a check out versus swiping a card, because the computers nowadays, they scan that check and pull it out like a debit anyway. So what's the point? So I'll be glad when I see checks get phased out. The whole idea behind this self-checkout is that you can get in and out faster. You check yourself out, you got a few items, you don't have to wait behind people, and then you're always going to have that one person that's got to have coupons and write a check, and they just got nothing to do all day. But that is the attitude of that whole area of northern Michigan, which is nothing to do all day. People, I live in Phoenix, where everybody's speeding to get from point A to point B. Everybody's running late. Everybody's got 8 million things to do and not enough time to do it. And up there, they're cruising the speed limit, no place to go, and all day to get there. And that would probably drive me nuts as a businessman, because I'm trying to help as many people as possible, trying to get as much done that I can do in a day. It also generates more revenue that way, and I'm able to help more people and make people wait less for me to come out and help them next. But what a great trip to be able to just turn all that off and go, you know what? We're just going to chill out and do what we're going to do. And it worked out really, really well for us. We had a little bit of everything. We had some super hot weather. We had some very cold nights. We had thunderstorms that thankfully happened at night. On the downside, it made all the firewood wet. So we were in a cold cabin for a couple of nights because I couldn't get the fireplace started. But I just kept reminding myself that in a couple days' time, I'm going to be in 110 degree weather, and I'll be wishing that that I could walk into a room this cool. And it wasn't really that cold. I think it was like 59 degrees Fahrenheit. But it seems pretty cold when you're used to living in Arizona, where the temperature is much, much higher. But you just cuddle up under the blankets, and it was great. And we had the windows open for a couple of nights, and we could, there was this one bird, and I thought this bird sounded really pretty at first. But then he just wouldn't shut up, and he just kept going all night long. And if anybody knows birds, it's called a whippoorwill. And boy, that thing got on my nerves. It was just all by itself, just as loud as could be, middle of the night, nonstop, the same thing over and over and over and over. I love nature. Caterpillars everywhere. You got to watch where you step. They were just everywhere. Big nesting cocoon nests in trees, this big around. Just, I guess, filled with cocoons, which of course leads to butterflies. There were lots of butterflies. There's a part of being online that in some way robs you of the human experience, in that you don't have the real sights, the real smells, the real visceral interaction and reaction of the world around you. And while it can be emulated in a computer to some extent, you don't feel, for example, the G-forces when you turn a car at high speed on Forza, right? You don't really feel the impact of recoil on a gun in Call of Duty or Battlefield, nor do you have the hearing damage that you would also have in that situation. In much the same way, when you ride a motorcycle or a bicycle, you don't have to worry about balance when you're dealing with a virtualization versus reality. So it's very difficult to compare them, because apart from the concept of I'm riding a bicycle, it's a completely different experience. That they're completely unrelated from using a controller to actually getting on a bicycle, figuring out your balance and riding it, or riding up a hill, and that effort that it takes to get up that hill. And I feel like, there's a part of me that's a little concerned at the lack of balance that this younger generation has with technology. But on the other hand, I was a bit delighted when I saw in the news they were asking young children, like 4 or 5 years old, was something that bothered them the most that their parents did. And the kids were very jealous of the cell phone. They're like, I wish I could destroy my mom's cell phone, because the mom is spending more time with her cell phone than she is with her kid. Or that's the way the kid feels. So maybe that'll lead to a generation that will try to achieve that balance of having the tech, but not being so addicted to it that it's got to be with them at all times and constantly attached to them. We'll see. What color were the caterpillars? They were, I want to say they were black and orange and furry. Hi, Carey. I would like to see some videos of you working on laptop hardware, like replacing CPU, RAM, etc. Everything you see on my channel is real. It's customers bring machines in for repair. Those customers that allow me the time and the freedom to film it, those are the videos that you see. I do a lot of repairs off camera. The vast majority of repairs I do are done off camera because most customers, they don't want their stuff to be seen and they want it done fast. And when you tell them it's going to take a bit longer if I film it, they're not happy with that at all. So I just, whatever the customer needs is what I do. And so basically whatever you want to see on the channel, you either, get the content that's provided to you for free, or you contact me to have work done and authorize me to film that. And that's a great way to get the content you want to see, is to provide me the opportunity. Not like these other YouTube channels. There's this attitude of all YouTube channels run the same. This YouTube channel doesn't run like those other tech channels. I'm not looking to create content for the sake of creating content. I'm interested in actually sharing real world experience and real world repairs from a real world technician. Most of the other YouTube tech channels are run by tech enthusiasts that have never been paid to fix a computer, or if they did, it was many, many years ago, and they've since lost their edge with regards to being in the industry. But they're really good at making videos, and they'll find sponsorships and ask viewers for ideas because that's what they like to do. Well, I'm not an enthusiast here. I'm a real working computer tech, and I turn the cameras on to show you real work that I'm held accountable and liable and responsible for forever. Like, I want my customer to call me a year and a half later if something else goes wrong. I want to be the name they remember. When you see these other YouTube channels and they do really bizarre things like, what would happen if we overclock this? No business would ever pay you to do that. It's totally impractical. It's interesting to go, what if? But in the real world, when it comes to making money and being a technician, it's all nonsense playing. It's pointless to a person in business, because that's time you could have spent helping somebody. Like right now, for example, many people are suffering with computer problems and either don't know where to go or they feel like they can't afford it. Some people will be smart enough to pull up YouTube and hopefully find my videos if they want to help themselves. My goal is to teach them how to think for themselves and be able to repair their own computer. And that's what this channel is all about, really. Brian says, hope you enjoyed my vacation. Very much so. Thank you, Brian. It's good to be able to walk again. Good to be able to stand. God, that pain was pretty significant. Did you have to kennel Lyle and Jimmy? No, we had a friend staying at the house. Usually when we go on vacation, which doesn't happen often enough, I like the dogs to stay here and keep their lives the same. I don't want to disrupt their lives. It's enough anxiety on a dog when you leave, but then to put the dog somewhere it's unfamiliar is just too traumatic, in my opinion. And furthermore, what's to protect the house from thieves, burglars? So by leaving the dogs here, they can continue to protect their domain, their territory. And we leave all the time to go to dinner, to go grocery shopping. We're gone for a much longer period of time. We make sure the dogs know the person that's going to be coming in, so they'll let that person in. And then that person can bring in our mail and feed the dogs, make sure they have water. And maybe they need a place to just get away for a while as their own little staycation from their place for whatever reason. And that's what happened in this instance. So, and that person also provided us the ride back and forth to the airport. So that saved us a few bucks with, using Uber or Lyft or a shuttle or something like that. When we travel up north in northern Arizona, we like to take the dogs with us. That's a lot of fun to see the dogs walking through the woods and, get them out of the city, and the look on the dog's face the first time he's hearing wind blow through the trees and seeing a squirrel for the first time, or a deer or an elk. It's great. I mean, that dog would go get himself killed. Don't get me wrong. If he wasn't on a leash, he'd get himself kicked in the head. I still find it humorous, though. But they went nuts when you came home? Yeah, they were pretty happy we were home. And with my legs being still blistered up from the really bad sunburn, I was so afraid the dogs were going to run into my legs and I was going to collapse into a heap on the floor. So I was very cautious walking in the door. So hopefully I'll be able to get things back on track very soon. Still a lot going on. We've come home to a family medical problem that my wife is dealing with right now with her mother, and we don't know how this is going to play out. It's been going on for some time, but it's gotten worse. And then just getting back into the swing of things, finishing up the Threadripper. We still have the naming ceremony to do, make sure everybody who's contributed to that gets the proper credit for that. And then the videos that I've shot, they have to be edited on top of the Subaru stuff I filmed with Mike. That has to be edited. And there's a couple other projects that I filmed that still need to be edited, and trying to mix that in with some live broadcasts so I don't have a period of too much time in between videos, and still trying to cover a lot of different topics here. I'm thinking of starting a separate channel for stuff like this, which is more life philosophy stuff. And might start something like that next week, kind of do a live video here to let everybody know that the live stream for this type of subject matter will take place over on the other channel, and separate this content out a little bit. Because there are times when I do enjoy talking about my philosophies on life and things like that. And it's refreshing to me to talk about something other than tech, because I do it so much, so often, and for so long. It's good for me to get a break from that into something else I also enjoy. So that's something I'll work on this week. This is my first opportunity since I've been back to go live. And that's why there's really nothing planned on this live broadcast other than just to say, hello, I'm back. And, I've got a very bare minimum setup right now. And I have a lot to untangle to get me back to where I was. So if anybody's got any questions for me in the chat, I'll do my best to provide you an answer. What's up, Jimmy? What's up, Jimmy boy? Oh, it's your dinner time, isn't it? Well, I'm going to wait for you guys to ask any questions, and while you're doing that, I got to feed these guys their dinner, because it's their dinner time, isn't it? You guys know exactly when it's 5 o'clock, don't you? All right, let's go. Jimmy first. Jimmy's first. There you go. What about you, Lyle? You ready? You ready for your dinner? There you go. Served. Does Intel make a CPU socket 1155? I mean, I don't know that specific model number, but the socket 1155 CPUs have not been made in years. Would you be happy without having your dogs? Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay without having my dogs, but I would feel like something's missing. I've had a dog or dogs since I was 8 years old, or 6 years old. I haven't really gone much time without a dog in my life. So yeah, I could live without one, but it would just feel like something's missing. So I probably wouldn't live without one for very long. Do you feed your dogs the blue dog food? Blue dog food, I don't know what that is. They eat a food called Canidae. Samsung SSDs are dropping in price. Do you think they will be just as reliable? Of course, they're not changing anything in the manufacturing process. But as long as you have a backup, who cares? Reliability of hard drive storage becomes irrelevant when you have backups. It becomes a question you don't need to worry about or ask, because at the very least, or at the very worst case scenario is you have to send the drive in for warranty, or if it's out of warranty, you have to replace the drive. And then when you get your new drive, you restore from your backup. Big deal. Okay, cookie time. Who wants cookies? You ready for a cookie? You ready for a cookie? Okay, here's your cookie. Here's your cookie. There you go. There, the dog's got dessert. You said once you charge $125 an hour. What if you can't fix it, or has that never happened? So $125 an hour would be for business clients where I have to go on site. If it's a residential client or a client that I can take the machine back to my office, then it's $125 flat regardless of how long it takes. There's never a situation that can't be fixed, but there does get to be a pricing issue where if it costs so much money to repair it, then it makes more sense to buy a new one. I will advise the customer. I advise the customer what's ever best for the customer, not what's best for my business. Because in my opinion, always going for what's best for the customer is always what's best for business in the long run. So you can make a lot of money by taking advantage of people, but I don't know how sustainable that is year after year, month after month, et cetera, with regards to reputation and referrals. So what I'll do is I have a customer come in and they've got an older laptop and it looks like it's something simple and it turns out to be not so simple, and it's probably, needs to be replaced because it's got a bad battery and it's got old storage and it's underpowered and it's designed for Windows 90, Windows XP or something like that. I'll just say, you know what? Take the $125 you were going to pay me. You put that as a down payment on your new laptop, and then call me again when you need me. That's the way I do it. But every problem can always be fixed. And ultimately, it's a matter of giving the customer what I would want if I was the customer, which is honesty. Even if it's not the thing they want to hear, it's honest. And it certainly keeps me from making a lot of money in this business. I could make a lot more if I were less ethical, but it's just very important to me to be able to sleep well at night, and you could blame my mom for instilling such a conscience into me. Do you think charging $50 flat is too cheap? Sometimes charging too little can be as bad as charging too much. People can become skeptical as to why you're so cheap. But it also depends on where you live. So if you're in New York City, charging $50 flat would be suspiciously too inexpensive, and be like, what's the catch? But if you're in a small town like where I was in northern Michigan, that might seem very reasonable because there's not a lot of industry there. So people don't, generally speaking, have a lot of money. So it's something you have to feel out for your general area and, see what your competitors are charging. And then you just kind of experiment with it and see what works for you. There's no recipe that you can follow. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. Success is something that requires a bit of persistence and determination to keep moving forward and figure out, okay, this works, this doesn't work, et cetera, and refine it down. And what works for you in the place that you live may not work for you in another place or for anybody else. That's why it's very difficult to get any sort of useful advice other than to say the people who want to work for themselves, regardless of what their line of work is, the ones who are successful are the ones who are not afraid of the work. The people that say there's no work around here, these are people who aren't looking. And those type of people probably shouldn't be self-employed. You don't have the right mindset for it. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just observation. If you don't have the right mindset for it, nothing to be ashamed of, it's just not your cup of tea. For other people who like to be in control of their own destiny, they like to control everything and every aspect, control freaks, being self-employed is the best thing ever, because you can decide what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it, and how much you're going to get paid. And you have to go and get the work. You have to understand that. I think one of the big mistakes people make is they think, I called 10 places and they all said they didn't need any computer repair. There's no computer repair work to be done, and they give up, which is like saying, I planted a bunch of seeds, but nothing's growing. So I guess the soil's bad. Well, no, you just planted them this afternoon. You have to give this stuff time to grow. So when you're out looking for business, you just go to neighboring businesses. Maybe you got to go across town. Maybe you got to drive an hour to the next big town. And you go to these businesses, industrial parks, and you just walk in the door and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a computer repair guy. And are you happy with the computer service you have now? Well, would you mind if I just leave you my card if things change, or if you don't have a guy and you don't need anybody now, but you need somebody in the future, you don't want to lose my card. That's planting the seed. You may not hear from that person for months. There's a good chance they're holding onto that card, waiting for something to happen. Now, customers who are reactive like this instead of proactive, these aren't the ones you're going to make a lot of money from regularly. You'll make a lot of money randomly when they call you. And the idea is that after you've helped them the first time and they realize you did a good job and you're a good person, they like you, then you can propose to them a preventive maintenance schedule where you could say, look, instead of waiting for things to go wrong, what if I build you modest monthly fee to make sure your antivirus was up to date, all your updates were installed, and prevent problems from occurring. And ultimately, it'll save you money. Or if you want to keep calling me after a problem, that's fine too, but understand that there's no discount for that, and there's no prevention that if there's data loss, you don't have a backup, not much I can do. By the way, what are you doing for backups? I offer that as a service too. That can be all part of a monthly package for businesses. That only works for businesses, generally doesn't work for residential. And again, the problem with residential is the same as it's always been. It's unpredictable. People tend to wait until the computer is just not running anymore before they call for service. I always advise people to call the minute something seems wrong so we can fix it faster and easier than waiting until it gets worse and worse and worse and it finally doesn't work anymore. Then it becomes a really much more time-consuming, bigger project to take on, often from people who can least afford it. And for that reason, I've mostly moved away from residential. I still do residential for the few customers that I still have in residential. When they call, I'll take care of them. But I don't rely on residential. So any residential work I get is just bonus work. My main income comes from small and medium-sized businesses and on regular monthly retainers. And then, one of the things I do for fun is I give these free presentations to the local computer clubs. This is a great free promotion for my business. I'm doing something I enjoy. How often do you go to work and people clap? Thank you. And I'm there not to sell anything. I have no agenda. I do just basically what I do here. I take questions and provide answers to questions and share news and information and let people know, by the way, I'm also a computer tech. If you ever have any computer problems or you know somebody who has computer problems, please take my business card and I'll be happy to help you out. And I have no control over whether or not anybody calls. I don't charge anything to do depends on some presentations that are far away, I charge because of the distance. But for the presentations that I do near my house, I do those for free. And it's a great way to promote the business and bring up your brand, as far as making people aware you exist. "24 Viper says, hello, Carey, just got back from Traverse City, Michigan. Well, so did I. Me too. And Leelanau. Leelanau's the peninsula there, right by Traverse City. Beautiful. I think I gotta go to Leelanau next year, if I can afford it. Carey, have you ever thought about streaming on Twitch? There's already a Twitch channel that already streams. It's all content that was originally created for YouTube, and I just basically rerun it over there on Twitch. Twitch wants you to basically put in about 2,000 hours a month. Is there even 2,000 hours in a month? They want you to put in so many hours in order to be eligible for revenue sharing. It'd be fine if you were just gaming anyway and you're just streaming because you game 12 hours a day anyway or 15 hours a day. Then it's a natural revenue source. But for me, that would be a lot of work to try and keep up with the demands that Twitch requires. It's almost like you need to have a clan of video creators all on one channel, and each day somebody takes it as their own in order to create that much content that Twitch requires. So for that reason, I do have a Twitch channel. It's at twitch.tv. Is it twitch.tv? And then / Carey Holzman. Twitch.com. Do you get any business from your presentations? Well, of course. That's what I just got done saying. Yes, I tell people, here's my card. Usually people will wait till after the presentation to speak to me about whatever computer problem they are having and ask me, you know, is this something you can fix? When would you be available? What would it cost? That always happens after a presentation. There's usually a dozen or more people, which is weird, right? Because I ask people, does anybody have any questions? And sometimes the room doesn't raise their hand. Okay, well, I'm out of time. I'll see you all again next time. And then boom, there's a dozen people waiting for me in line to talk to me privately when they could have, nothing they're asking is private. Like they could have just stood up and asked their question when I asked, does anybody have any questions? What they fail to realize is that there may be somebody else in the room or multiple people in the room who have the same exact question you do or in the same position and are wondering the same thing. So sometimes out of those 12 people that are waiting, 3 of those people ultimately have the same question. What are you going to do, right? See, all right, you just handle it. Everybody waits. I give everybody their time. And sometimes that's a bit rude because they usually have another group that has to use the presentation room. So while I'm trying to be considerate to those sticking around to ask me questions, I'm then also being rude to the next people waiting for me to clear that room so they can start their project. So that's sometimes a delicate rope to walk. Sometimes people, like I'll end my presentation and then the computer club will have ongoing business and people will start to talk to me while somebody else is speaking. And that's extraordinarily rude to the person who's speaking. Like, could you guys, it's very embarrassing to have somebody on stage say to you, and remember, I'm just being nice, right? Somebody's talking to me and I'm responding. And then the guy on stage going, would you guys mind taking that outside? Oops. So there's ways where you think you're being a nice guy and you end up being a complete jerk to somebody else at the exact same time. Turn time is 720 hours a month. All right, so what Twitch wants is 500 hours of streaming a month. So if there's 720 hours in a month, you can imagine how much work it would be to stream 500 hours in a month. That's crazy. Will some shops put up your card on the notice board? You'll find that if you go to a shop regularly, usually they don't have any problem. Sometimes they'll even ask you. Like I go to the guy who cuts my hair, I've been going to him for like 15 years or longer. If I ask him to put my card out, he'd have no problem with that. He knows who I am. There's a restaurant that I used to go to all the time. It's since not around anymore, but I used to leave my cards there. And they would call me anytime they had a problem, and they were more than happy to let me leave my business cards there for them. But it depends if that's the kind of customer you want. For me, I don't want those kind of customers anymore. I don't want somebody who finds my card at some unrelated store. You know, they're at the tanning salon and there's my business card. Again, the residential customers, they're just too random. They're too cheap, generally speaking. And they don't call often enough to sustain a business. You need a lot of residential customers. At one point, I had over 450 residential customers and I was barely making ends meet. And it's just a lot of work. So work smarter, don't work harder. Space Ghost says hello from San Diego. Hello, Space Ghost. Boom. Boom says some people just can't speak in public. No, that's simply not true. Everybody can speak in public. Some people have unreasonable anxieties that if they exercise free will and are willing to practice, they can overcome them. But their unwillingness is not a disability. It is a choice. So you'll get no sympathy from me on that. Everybody can speak in public. Everybody can. I was very, very shy, and it's something that I decided I wanted to do, and I worked at it. This is not something that came naturally. But just because it doesn't come naturally doesn't mean you can't do it. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Free will. Exercise it. Is it a good idea to make an image or a copy of the pigs on a customer's PC in your shop in case something goes wrong? Yes, of course. I will, depending on what the problem is. If I feel like a hard drive may be failing, the first thing I do is image it. If I feel like I'm not quite sure how to do a repair, then I'll image it, and then I'm free to do whatever I want to do, knowing if I screw it up completely, I can restore the image back to the way it was. So yes, depending on your level of experience and how comfortable you are with the job you're about to undertake, taking the extra time to make an image as a safety net, the worst thing that can happen is you wasted time because you didn't need it. So what? You know, image creation could postpone your start on that computer by several hours waiting for that to complete. But once you've got it, you've now got this great safety net that enables you to boldly experiment with registry edits or other items to try and remedy that situation. Or if you need to do a complete reinstall, you don't have to back up the customer's data. You can do the reinstall and then recover the data from the image you already previously made and just pull the data off. So lots of advantages to that, but it does add time to the job. And if you've got many customers and a lot of people waiting, there may not be enough hours in the day to permit you that opportunity, you know, for all of the clients. But then not all the clients may need it. And remember, no shop that you take your computer to will accept responsibility for data loss. This is not possible. There's no way to value it, and there's no way to replace it. But I go out of my way as a small shop to give myself that extra confidence and give that safety net to the customer when I can, when opportunity allows me to. I use Acronis for images. Do you ever have family volunteer you to fix someone else's computer problems? I've had family refer me to friends and things under the guise that they were going to pay me. When I was younger, there was some issue mostly with clients trying to get me to fix their friends' computers as though I was going to do that for free. Not so much with family, although you know, when you're fixing your mom's computer for free and your dad's computer for free, and then your brother and your sister have computer problems, you start to, at some point you got to go, look guys, there's no time for me to work and make any money here. You know, I want to help you, but you just can't call me and expect me to drop what I'm doing because your printer won't print. I'm sorry, I've got work to do, but I will, as soon as time frees up at the end of the business day, I'll help you after business hours, kind of what the rule is. Can I make a gaming PC using $300? Well, it depends on what your definition of a gaming PC is. I mean, I can build an arcade system that'll play Galaga for under $100. For the most part, I wouldn't sell a computer because of the warranty and because of the quality of components you're going to be stuck with at a $300 budget. Would put me out of business, just maintaining it. Not to mention damage my reputation for selling such lower quality stuff. But that said, I mean, just getting a graphics card is going to set you back more than $300 for the most part. Your operating system is another $100, and then a case and power supply are going to set you back at least $100. So we're already far exceeded the $300 budget, and we haven't even picked a motherboard, CPU, RAM, or storage. So Generally, a good starting point on a good gaming PC or decent gaming PC is about $1,200 on up. If you want to go something cheap or under $600, I would just say buy a console, buy a PlayStation, buy an Xbox, and be done with it. Or you can maybe find something used on Craigslist or eBay, an older gaming machine from 4 or 5 years ago around that price. But to build something new for $300 that you're going to use for gaming, unless your idea of gaming is poker and Minecraft, Minesweeper. But sometimes people just like to build stuff because it's enjoyable to build, not necessarily for any end result to play the latest AAA title at the highest resolution. I mean, clearly you're not going to do that with a $300 budget. But the enjoyment you can get out of, building the cheapest machine possible, that's just a unique choice that you are making. I wouldn't do that because time is too valuable to me. I just don't have the time to spend trying to get a $300 computer to work when that same amount of time could have fixed 10 other people's computers and made me $1,000. So it really is a question of, what's right for you and what's right for somebody else is something nobody else can answer. It's really something you have to decide on your own. See, we have a contribution that just came in. That's from Brandon Stevens, contributed $2, says, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your vacation. Very much so. Thank you. Yes. Carey, what do you think of KVM switches and do you use them? I don't have any need for a KVM switch, but if I needed one, I'd use one. I don't quite know how to answer that question. It's sort of like, what do you think of life preservers? Well, if you never go in the water, kind of pointless. But if you do go in the water, they're pretty important. And if you go in the water often, very, very important to have a good one. What are you doing, Jimmy? You being a good boy? Can you come up here? Come here. Come up. Come say hello. Come say hello, boy. Come on. Come up here. Come here, let's grab those legs. Grab those legs, get up here, you big boy. Oh, there he is. There he is. Oh, you got a loud tongue, mister. Oh, there's your brother. Don't step on your brother. Good boys. Good boys. Is computer repairing dead? There's about 300 million new computers sold every year. Desktop computers. Close to 300 million. Year after year after year. And it doesn't mean the 300 they made last year went away. So in the last 5 years, that's 15 million computers. That means there are more computers now than there ever has been in the history of mankind. But I guess you guys have come to some weird conclusion that power supplies don't die, hard drives don't die, people don't get viruses. This idea that computer repair is dead is so profoundly ignorant. It suggests to me the people who are making such statements don't have a clue what they're talking about. It's like having an opinion on gardening when you've never planted a seed in your life. And unfortunately, the internet is rife with people who are willing and able to argue about things they've never ever done, but they've seen something on the internet about it, and so they think they know all there is to know about it. Well, I saw a guy on YouTube do that. That's how I know that that's not true. Well, the fact is, you don't know if it's true or not until you do it yourself. And the computer repair business is bigger now than it's ever been in the history of mankind. There are more people doing it. When people say, well, people just buy a new computer instead of fixing their old one, that's fine. You know, I'm more than happy to get paid to set up their new computer with their email and transfer all their files and set up their printers and get it configured on their network. I make the same amount of money configuring a new computer as I do for fixing an old one. It makes no difference to me. I would suggest anybody who thinks computer repair is dead, they go get a job. Get a job in an office. And in the office, you will be assigned a workstation with a computer. And you will have difficulty when you are trying to do your job when certain things don't work in your office. And you will call the office's IT support. And your office's IT department will probably have several dozen people working in it full time to keep everything operational. Now, depending on the size of the company, when we're looking at a company like Intel, which has, I mean, just in Chandler, when I worked there in Chandler, Arizona, it was over 5,000 employees. It's a very complex network to get set up and running with you know, support tickets being opened and closed and maintained. The software for that has to be maintained. The software for the email system has to be maintained. The computers themselves have to be replaced and maintained. And new machines have to arrive and be configured and be delivered to the client. It is endless work, endless. So no, computer repair is as far from dead as it's ever been. But there's just some people that have a bad attitude. You know, well, there's no work, so there's no computer. So I'm concluding there's computer repair is dead. Well, you're just an idiot. I mean, you don't want to work. That's all that is. That's somebody who's just lazy. Don't let lazy people tell you the way it is, because, you know, if someone's not knocking on their door and presenting work to them, they think there's no work to be had. But if you go out there and you do the grind, you know, if you have that inner drive and ambition, you'll find there's plenty of work. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, because I had this debate with somebody on Facebook the other day. I don't know why. It's a waste of time to debate with anybody on Facebook. But they were just concluding that the business was dead. And I said, I'm glad you think that. That's more business for the rest of us. You know, you might think the earth is flat too. I don't care. I don't care what you think. You think whatever you want. It doesn't change reality. But if it makes you happy, you go be happy. Carey, do you use pfSense or OpenWRT? No, because time is very valuable to me. I don't have that kind of time to deal with the minutia of pfSense and OpenWRT. These are hobbyist, enthusiast level things. This is the kind of stuff you go see in other YouTube check channels. You will not walk into a business. You are highly unlikely to walk into a big corporation and find any of that nonsense there. The world goes around because of money, because of big business. YouTube is a big business. And I assure you, YouTube's not using pfSense or WRT in any of their routers. Google's not using it. Facebook's not using it. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. And there's a lot of multi-billion-dollar corporations. And if you're interested in being successful in the business, you got to look at what other businesses are doing so that you can be valuable to them. But if you're just hanging around the house looking for something to do, playing with pfSense and OpenWRT is very educational. It can be very enjoyable as a hobby, but it's no way that any business would ever run or count on. No serious business would, for both political reasons and liability reasons. Did a lot of work dry up much when the Bitcoin rush took hold? No. The cryptocurrencies had no impact on my business because anybody dealing with cryptocurrency, those aren't customers. They never were before and they aren't now. It's had no impact at all. When I try to back up my hard drive, some say the file names are too long. Is there a way to force it? You got to rename those files or move them into directories so that the total length of the file location is significantly reduced. Unless you don't care about the integrity of your files. If you care more about the name of your files than the content of your files, then keep doing what you're doing. But if the content of the file actually matters to you, you really need to reconsider the way you've been naming them. Do I have some good Scottish whiskey in that Coke? No, I wouldn't put anything in Coke. It ruins the Coke. But the Scottish whiskey, I drink that straight. All right, any final questions? Otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. I'm getting back into the swing of things and still have a ton of work. The phone's gone off a couple times. I got to return some phone calls here. All right, guys, it looks like the end of the questions anyway. So thank you all again so much for tuning in. I've just been waiting to see if anything relevant's come up. I keep getting the same kind of questions where people are asking, is this going to be good for this? I can't answer if something's going to be good. You have to try it and see for yourself. Questions about cloning. I've got videos that detail the whole cloning process. You can learn everything there is to know about cloning by watching any of the videos where I demonstrate it and explain how it works and why. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the questions. So thanks again for tuning in. I will see you all again very soon. Until then, bye for now.